of General Electric and the janitor who cleans the floor have the same interest. Well, actually, they have very different interests, often sharply conflicting interests. It turns out that the interest of the CEO is what ends up being the national interest, not the janitor. So it's a concept that relates to elite conceptions of what's in their interest. And if you look closely, that's the way it's actually used. Well, there are some shared interests, of course, like not being destroyed by, say, destruction of the environment or by nuclear war. Well, what about those interests? How do we protect them? Suppose, for example, it was determined that the Australian national interest, in this sense, it could be advanced by enslaving the population of sub-Saharan Africa and sending them to work under miserable conditions in mines owned by Australian companies. I suppose that increased the wealth of Australia and hence its national interest. Should you therefore be in favor of it? Well, I think if we took a vote among people of Australia, very few would be in favor of it. And I should say that this is not really a hypothetical example. So after the Second World War, when the United States was in a position of just overwhelming power, I won't go into the details, but there was nothing like it in history. And planners knew it, and they made detailed, sophisticated plans to organize the world so that it would serve what they took to be the American national interest. And they assigned every region of the world what they called its function. So, for example, the function of Southeast Asia was to provide resources and raw materials for the former colonial powers so that they could then reconstruct, which was in the American national interest, and be allies and purchase a U.S. manufacturing surplus, which was enormous at the time, and so on. Well, as they went around the world, this was incidentally George Kennan and his policy planning staff at the State Department. When they got to Africa, they decided that the United States is not particularly interested in Africa, but we are interested in the reconstruction of Europe, so we will hand over Africa to the Europeans to exploit, the term they used, hand it over to the Europeans to exploit, to help in their reconstruction. Well, these are the liberal Democrats we're talking about. George Kennan himself was considered so dovish, he was soon thrown out of the State Department, considered too soft-hearted for this harsh world. Well, do we accept that? Thinking back, is it correct? Would Americans then even have said that it's right to hand over Africa to Europe to exploit for its reconstruction? Not many would accept that, I hope, certainly not now. And those are real issues. If it turns out to be in the so-called mostly mythical national interest to exploit, harm, and destroy others, is that a conflict? I mean, are we in a conflict about whether to accept it or not? I don't really think so.
Noam, the election of Obama engendered a lot of hope in the US and internationally. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The Rambo-style execution of Osama bin Laden under a Democrat president